My husband, a well-loved high school math teacher, might be hiding something unthinkable. He could be secretly involved with a former student. I'm at a complete loss right now and desperately need advice on my next move, maybe even legal action. This all started unraveling around March. We've been married since 2023, together for 7 years, and he's always been respected by students, parents, teachers, even the school administration. He's been teaching for over a decade and always kept things professional. He constantly refers to his students as his kids, and he's told me many times how inappropriate and manipulative teacher-student relationships are, no matter the student's age. I've never once doubted him until recently. One evening, in March, we were out at the movies. A group of teenage girls nearby kept pointing and whispering. My husband confirmed they were probably his students but didn't say hello. He rarely does. One girl in particular caught my eye. She was blushing and clearly fixated on him. I brushed it off at the time as a silly crush. Until last weekend, at a Canada Day BBQ with family, my husband got drunk. At one point, he went to the bathroom and didn't return for so long that I went to check. He said he was fine, but didn't unlock the door and stayed in there another 10 minutes. Strange, but not alarming. Yet. Later, that night, around 3 a.m., I woke up and found our bed empty. He was in the living room, glued to his phone. When I asked what he was doing, he quickly turned off the screen and said he was just watching videos and didn't want to wake me. That was weird. The next morning, he slept in from the hangover. Curious and uneasy, I checked his phone for the first time ever. Nothing stood out except for one thing: Snapchat. He hadn't used that app in years, or so I thought. It wasn't even logged in. I dismissed it. Maybe I was overthinking. Last night, I saw a Snapchat notification pop up on his phone while we were watching TV. I recognized the logo instantly. My heart sank. He had secretly logged back in. He excused himself shortly after and disappeared to the bathroom again. I cried. I knew something was wrong. When I got up for work the next morning, he was still asleep. I checked again. Snapchat was now hidden inside a folder disguised as cooking and workout apps. It wasn't even logged out this time. Inside Snapchat, there was one human conversation thread. Just one. And it was with a girl. No messages saved. Of course, since Snapchat deletes them. I kept digging. Inside the same hidden folder, I found something else. OnlyFans. He was subscribed to a creator whose username matched the girl from and then it hit. MIT was her. The same girl from the movie theater. I recognized her face instantly. I nearly threw up. We've joked about OnlyFans subscribers before, called them simps now. Here he was. One of them. At work, I found her social accounts. She's 18, just graduated from his school. Her Twitter even had the same OnlyFans link. He texted me normally all day, completely unaware. I told him I was going to my parents' house, but I stayed at work. I couldn't even think straight. Legally, she's an adult. But morally, I'm not okay. I don't even know if she was in one of his classes. Does that change anything? It's still cheating. I don't know what to think. I posted my story. It went viral. The next day, July 9th, I came back to update. I didn't take screenshots, something I deeply regret. I figured I'd have another chance. But that never came. I've now made my decision. I'm leaving him. It took time to accept the truth, but I'm done. He called me while I was still at work. I told him we needed to talk. He stayed home, and I debated what to do. I had planned to act normal, wait until bedtime, and check his phone again, but my emotions got the better of me. When I got home, he seemed off, like he already knew I had found something. I asked him outright if he had an OnlyFans account. He denied it, played dumb. I told him I saw it on his phone, and he scoffed, called me crazy, threw the phone at me and said, "Knock yourself out." Sure enough, Snapchat was logged out. I demanded he log in and he did, but it was a different account, the original account with the girl. Gone. He claimed he never had another one. He even told me I was dreaming this. Gaslighting, denial, manipulation. Eventually, he admitted subscribing to some streamer's page during a low point, he said, but insisted it wasn't a student. He swore he'd never do something like that. But he kept denying everything. Else he said he didn't know the girl, didn't teach her, didn't even remember the movie theater incident. He made me feel like I was going insane. He kept trying to shift the narratives, adjusting marriage counseling, claiming he'd leave teaching if that's what it took for me to stay. That's when I knew the truth was far worse. Teaching is his whole identity. If he's willing to give that up just to keep me from speaking out, it means there's more. Maybe with that girl, maybe with others. I played along, told him I needed space. He's in the guest room now, and I told him to leave me alone. I'm lying. I don't want to fix this. I want to burn it all down. I'm trying to figure out if I should get a lawyer, tell the school, contact her parents, or just expose him. But I have no solid proof. Still, I know what I saw. I'm thinking of bluffing, telling him I messaged the girl. Maybe it'll make him confess. Maybe not. Either way, I've already started looking for a divorce lawyer. I can't do this anymore. I won't. Too long, didn't read. I caught my husband Snapchatting and subscribing to a former student's OnlyFans. She's 18, but it doesn't make it okay. He lied, hid evidence, and gaslit me. Now I'm planning my exit and getting legal help. I'm absolutely going through with it, no doubt in my mind. I'm just unsure how long the entire process will take, but one way or another, it's going to happen. In the meantime, unfortunately, I'll likely still be living under the same roof with him since most of our combined income goes straight into maintaining the house, but let me be very clear. I have zero intention of ever being intimate with him again. That part of our relationship is over for me. What makes this even more complicated is that he's deeply admired by almost everyone in our community. He's got this charming, well-liked persona, and I can't shake the feeling that, if this all came out, people would side with him instead of me. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think his family would ever believe me. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if even my own relatives were stunned by everything. He's hurt me so deeply, I feel broken. And the worst part is that I don't think I'm the only one he's hurt. That's why I'm desperate for evidence, real proof, because I don't want it to just be my word against his. I've been thinking, maybe hiring a private investigator could help, but do P's only follow people in real life? Or are there some who investigate digital footprints too? Shifting to something that's been a bit of an emotional tornado in a different way, Alex, my fiancé has decided to take my last name after we get married. We're both still in college. He's 21. I'm 22 and we've been together for 6 amazing years. Originally, I wasn't all that attached to my last name, but after a few recent events involving my family, I realized I wanted to hold on to it. I explained that to Alex, and without any hesitation, he told me he wanted to match and would take my name. Everything seemed great, until his parents found out. Lisa and Luke, his mom and dad, completely blew up. Lisa screamed at him, and the argument got so intense that my parents offered to let Alex stay at our place during the final week of winter break. We don't live far from each other, just a few miles, but it felt like worlds apart. His parents started saying that Alex was rejecting his family, publicly disgracing them, and allowing me to emasculate him. They dragged in religion, saying we were violating God's design for marriage, and that I should be the one submitting to him. Then, politics entered the chat. They blamed the queer community, said transgender people were the reason young men like Alex were being confused, and called our marriage yet another sign of America's downfall. Lisa bombarded him with emotional texts calling him cruel, hateful, and heartless, constantly asking how he could let her go through this pain. Meetings with them were a disaster. They'd insist they just wanted to see him, promising not to bring up the name situation, then immediately did. One of the meetings had both sets of parents, and Lisa and Luke did nearly all the talking before walking out in a rage. Even when Alex offered to stick with his last name just for peace, he admitted later that it wouldn't matter. Never forgive us, or my family, for supporting each other. Lisa then tried emotional blackmail. She threatened to cut off all financial help. This included wedding funds and money for his apartment, even though they'd always claimed there were no strings attached. Suddenly, there were strings, ropes actually. She told him that this was worse than if he had gotten me pregnant, driven drunk and killed someone, or even come out as gay. She said his grandparents would need to be moved into assisted living because of the heartbreak. Luke repeatedly told Alex he was shattering their lives. And why? Because Alex didn't want to carry on a not-so-unique last name. I later found out Lisa had subtly tried to dissuade Alex from proposing to me at all. He did it anyway. She even called my mom in the middle of our engagement, excitement, to express her disapproval. She said they would stop interfering the moment Alex was legally married, but obviously, that was a lie. They kept texting Alex. They even reached out to my parents, but I never got a single word from them. They completely ignore me, yet talk about me constantly, openly bad-mouthing me whether I'm present or not. Our relationship with them had already been rocky, especially since they kept pushing their religious beliefs on me, but this was the breaking point. Alex has been so patient, he never yelled or said anything harsh, but he's exhausted. His parents even threatened that if he didn't move back home, he could say goodbye to any financial help and that most of the family wouldn't attend our wedding. One of his siblings even backed out of the bridal party. I've made my decision to keep distance from Lisa and Luke for good, but for Alex, it's more complicated. They're his family, and with the wedding approaching, we're still unsure how to handle everything. Let me be clear, we're still getting married. Nothing is postponing that. Their financial help, it's not necessary, and we've adjusted our plans accordingly. The money came with strings anyway. We've been through too much together over 6 years to let this break us. Some people asked whether Alex's parents would have accepted a compromise like a hyphenated name. Apparently not. They said it would be just as bad. We've heard lots of opinions from people online, and honestly, many have been helpful. Some said, the only people who should be at your wedding are the ones who support you. They're right. Others pointed out that this name battle is just the final straw. It's really about control. Some suggested we stop oversharing with his parents entirely after the wedding, or we'll face more drama about baby names, how to raise kids, and so on. One person said, "Your in-laws act like toddlers." I couldn't agree more. Alex and I are looking into premarital counseling to help us prepare for all of this, and we both agree, the loss of their financial support is a small price to pay for peace. Fast forward 5 months. As of last month, yes, we're officially married. Our day was pure magic, beautiful, meaningful, perfect. But getting there was not easy. Over the next few months, the emotional pressure didn't stop. So Alex finally made the heartbreaking call. Lisa and Luke weren't welcome at our wedding. He said he couldn't trust them to respect our boundaries or what the day meant to us. As expected, they freaked out. They asked him if I had manipulated or isolated him. They told him he was cutting off everyone who loved him. We don't know what they told the rest of their family, but Alex reached out to as many as he could, and honestly, the responses were even more disheartening. Most of Lisa's side sided with her, calling Alex dishonorable, selfish, and unforgivable. One even sent back the wedding invite with hateful notes scribbled inside. They accused him of planning our wedding too close to the anniversary of Lisa's first child's death, something he'd never even been told the date of. It had never been acknowledged in the family before, and now suddenly it was a huge deal. Alex's sister, Alice, also turned on him. She first acted like she was in his corner, then snapped because he didn't want to argue over the phone. She said I was being controlling because I unfollowed her on Instagram. This after she pulled out as a bridesmaid and said she didn't support our marriage. It crushed Alex. She was his only sibling. And now, she refuses to speak unless it's on her terms. We've gone nearly full no contact with Lisa and Luke. Alex handled his bills, his college, and we don't even know if they showed up to his graduation. They texted the day before saying they'd be there, then went dark. He left right after walking the stage. Just to avoid any potential drama, no contact continued through the wedding, and they didn't reach out at all. The only thing Lisa did was unfollow me and my whole family on social media. At this point, I'm done. Whether they ever apologize or not, the relationship is over. I will never forget how little they respected me or us, but now, we're married. Our wedding was straight out of a dream, and we're stepping into this next chapter with peace in our hearts and so much hope that it only gets better from here. My mom completely lost it, ICE, blew up and threatened to pull all financial support from us. The thing is, we didn't even need it. But then, after 10 long years of pretending to be fine, the racism exploded out of nowhere. All of a sudden, my family wasn't just my family, we were those people code for not white enough in her eyes, and that was it, our ceremony. Absolutely stunning. Peaceful, loving, everything we dreamed of. Except one thing. She didn't come. She chose her prejudice over being present for her only son's wedding, and now she'll have to live knowing she missed the moment her son started his life. The wild part, just days before the wedding, we had already decided not to change the last name. But it was too late. The hatred and the disrespect she hurled at my wife's family were enough for my husband to go completely no contact. One of our close friends messaged us after and said, "I'm proud he stuck to what mattered and didn't give in to the bullying." The wedding, his graduation, it all went smoothly. If anything, this just shows how much peace you can have without toxicity. Stay no contact. And hey, if he's still emotionally struggling, therapy's worth looking into. It's not easy cutting off your own parents. Someone else chimed in with a real-world perspective. Like, why do people even bother changing their names nowadays? The paperwork, the licenses, the records, it's a nightmare. But still, it's not even about the name. It's about separating yourself from chaos, from people who can't see past a label. Another person shared a funny story about how they joked with their spouse about combining last names 11 letters and 9 letters of complicated Dutch origin, and even that didn't spark outrage. No one cared, except for a few light comments from their parents about practicality. No emotional warfare, no racial slurs. Just life. That then came someone else with a more serious reflection. Their partner's last name didn't sound great in English, too, right? Difficult to pronounce. They admitted they'd probably keep their own name if they ever married. And while they knew the in-laws might not love it, they figured the family would eventually move on. Maybe, hopefully. Another person shared a deeply personal story. When their dad passed away and their mom remarried, she kept her first husband's last name. Not because of sentimentality, but because she hated her maiden name, and the new guy's name was long and annoying. Her new husband didn't care at all. She just kept what she felt was hers, and when that user got married, they changed their name, then changed it back after the divorce. No drama, just a personal choice. One person put it perfectly, it's not really about a name, it's about power. When they and their husband both took each other's names. Totally fair, totally. Balanced. The husband's parents flipped out. It was never about fairness, it was about losing their grip, losing control. The son they used to dictate suddenly had a say, a life, a voice, and they couldn't handle it. Evan, though he was in his 30s with a PhD, a job, and property, To them, he was still just a child to be managed. That's what it always comes down to, doesn't it? Power, control, and this desperate need to define other people's lives by your own standards. And in our case, they couldn't. So they chose to walk out. And we chose peace. I seriously can't stop obsessing over the bizarre details, like, how could anyone know who I dated nearly 20 years ago? And why would someone randomly show up at 1 a.m. with that kind of weirdly specific story? I haven't had any contact with my boyfriend from 10th grade in well over a decade. So the entire thing left me rattled. Just yesterday, I reached out to him on Facebook to see if he had any idea what might be going on. I laid out the whole story. He was just as confused as I was, claimed he didn't know anything about it and had nothing to do with it. Still, I'm unsettled. I mean, what kind of person goes through all that effort in the middle of the night to track someone down, using information from high school? Any thoughts or theories would really help, because this has me spiraling. For the record, nothing else strange has happened since that night. Wow, I had no idea this would blow up like it did. Thank you for all the advice and kind words. A few people pointed out things I should clarify. First off, no, I'm not in any legal trouble. At least not that I know of. I mean, sure, I missed court for a ticket on an expired registration, but they just mailed me a big fine. So, I don't think this is some weird legal scare tactic. Also, I took out a personal loan about 1.5 years ago. Nothing wild, and I was paying it off steadily until 6 months ago when a medical emergency hit. Since then, I've fallen behind, but to my knowledge, I haven't defaulted. Could it be related? Maybe, but I doubt it. Thanks to everyone's ideas, I've compiled a checklist of things I plan to look into tomorrow. We'll keep you posted. Sorry, it's taken me a bit to follow up. Work has been chaos lately. Sadly, not much to report. I contacted the loan company, and they say they had absolutely nothing to do with this. Also, my family and friends pointed out that the fact it happened at 1 a.m. makes the financial angle unlikely. I went to my parents' house for the first time since it happened, stayed alert, and everything seemed normal. Still, a total mystery. Finally, I have something new to share. After over a year of tossing around theories with friends and family, we still had no solid answers and had started joking about the whole creepy night like it was a weird ghost story. But recently, things got more twisted. Back in January, right after the holidays, my stepsister and her fiancé were at a house party. They ended up chatting with a woman neither of them knew. Eventually, she opened up about a rough breakup she'd just been through. You guessed it, my old 10th grade boyfriend. The one with the ridiculously rare Italian name. Now, it's not that insane of a coincidence. My stepsister's fiancé actually went to high school with me, and we all share mutual friends. So it makes sense this girl was in the same social circle, but as they're telling her the story about the weird 1 a.m. visit to my parents' house, she turns pale like she's about to cry. They ask what's wrong. She tells them something nearly identical happened to her just days earlier. The middle of the night, loud banging on her door. She thought someone was trying to break in. She has a Ring camera, so she checked, and there was a man in a black hoodie, just like the one from my story. She hid, kept the lights off, and nearly called 911. The guy eventually left. She says she may have stayed with a friend afterward, but she never called the police. And here's the kicker, she swore it wasn't her ex. The man at her door was heavier, taller, different, built entirely. So now, the mystery is even deeper. Backstory for clarity. My 10th grade boyfriend, heavy into drugs in high school. No idea if he's clean now. He used to come over to my parents' house all the time, so he definitely knows the place. We had a brutal breakup because I left him for someone else and he made my life hell. For the rest of that school year, I had to be escorted to classes by security because he and his friends bullied me that badly. He eventually apologized, said he was just heartbroken, but the damage had been done. I saw him once or twice after high school. He was chill. I thought it was water under the bridge. I'm thinking of messaging him again. This time I'll bring up the update, his recent ex, the Ring footage, all of it, and try to read his reaction. Maybe even ask a few mutual friends if he's been acting shady. Also, I plan to look for this ex-girlfriend on his Facebook. I only have her first name, but I'll check his friend list and tagged photos. Maybe I can reach out to her directly. If anyone knows what happened, it's her. Some commenters are warning me not to reach out at all, that it's probably him behind all this, or someone close to him. Honestly, part of me agrees. If he sent someone to my parents' door, and then someone to hers too, that's seriously disturbing behavior, especially if he's still holding grudges or using drugs. Others say to just stay low and stay safe. I haven't heard from anyone in months, but if this is him orchestrating something, I don't want to be on his radar again. I don't know if I'll get answers, but I'll try to keep you all posted. Thanks again for your support. There's no reason to keep any contact with him. Honestly, block him. Don't message him again. Don't engage with him on social media. Nothing. Just pretend he doesn't exist. The last thing you want is to be dragged back into that twisted mess. Now, onto the chaos with my brother. and whether I'm the underscore for yanking his +1 so his toxic friend Amanda couldn't come, and inviting his actual girlfriend instead, which, of course, led to a full-blown family disaster. So, here's what went down. My brother, who's been with Leah for about 2 years, has a pretty decent relationship, or so I thought. We all like Leah. She's kind, thoughtful, easy to be around, the kind of person you actually want at your wedding. So naturally, when I was sending out invites, I sent one to his apartment, addressed to the household. We kept it simple, household invites instead of individual names. For example, my aunt's family got one invite for all of them, not separate ones. A few days later, we were at my parents' house, just us, the core family, doing our usual chore of helping them with some organizational stuff. While we were chatting, I casually asked my brother about Leah's dietary restrictions since I knew she's vegetarian and also has issues with some raw veggies. That's when he casually dropped the bomb. "Oh, Leah's not coming. I'm bringing Amanda instead." I blinked. Like what? Now Amanda is his best friend, supposedly. But let's be real here. Their relationship has always been one big emotional mess. She'll date other guys, completely ignore my brother, and the second her relationships fall apart, she runs back to him, and he lets her. It's like clockwork. There was even this one time Amanda and her ex-boyfriend were supposed to go on a trip with my brother and his then-girlfriend. Amanda's boyfriend broke up with her, and she suddenly didn't want my brother's girlfriend there anymore. So my idiot brother went on the trip with Amanda alone. Naturally, his girlfriend dumped him right after, and somehow he was shocked. So when he said Amanda was coming to my wedding, I had questions. I asked if Leah had other plans or something, but no, Amanda just wanted to come. She said it'd be a great way to reconnect with our old high school crew. Convenient, and I just snapped. I told him flat out that if I wanted Amanda there, she'd have had her own invite. I didn't want her there. Amanda has always been cold, rude, and borderline nasty. She makes underhanded comments about other women, throws emotional tantrums at parties, and sulks in the corner until someone begs her to talk. She either storms out crying or sits there like she's the main character in a melodrama. It's exhorting. So I told him I was revoking his +1. Amanda was not coming. I also told him I was going to invite Leah directly, because she deserved to be there. That's when he lost it. He accused me of being sexist, said I didn't believe in male-female friendships, which is absolute crap. My fiance's best friend is a woman, and she's awesome. We've become really close, each was respectful from the beginning, always made me feel included. There's a difference between a healthy friendship and whatever this mess is with Amanda. Anyway, I told him he could take it or leave it, but I was done watching him get emotionally whipped by someone who clearly doesn't care about him. And yeah, I told him he seriously needed to work out his weird obsession with Amanda. He told me to stay out of his life. My dad shrugged the whole thing off as family drama and didn't take sides. My mom, on the other hand, was furious with him. For once, someone saw my side. Then, it got messier. Amanda found my Reddit post. Yes, Amanda. She started commenting on it through a legit, active account. She accused me of trying to control my brother's relationships and said I was selfish for not acknowledging her role in his life. She even said, "You'll see me at your wedding." At that point, I was done, so I wrote back, "Amanda, you are not invited. If you want to see old friends, plan your own meet. If you show up, staff will escort you out. If needed, we'll involve the police. Do not contact me or my fiancé again." She didn't take it well. She went on a petty spree, sent me nasty emails, vague threats, and moved to Instagram. Started tagging me in cryptic posts, using those Ask Me Anything stickers to talk about me without using my name. Things like, "What's a good wedding dress I'll never get to wear?" with a photo of herself, or pet peeve. Followed by rants about jealous women who try to control men. She even started lying to people, telling them I invited her, then disinvited her because Leah told me to. But nobody believed her. Most of our high school friends cut her off completely. A couple guys mostly close to my brother missed me and said she was spreading nonsense. They didn't buy a word of it. And then my brother cracked. He called me furious, blamed me for Amanda's emotional meltdown, and said if anything happened to her, it'd be my fault. He even dragged our mom into it, trying to guilt her into siding with him. My mom told him that if he was seriously concerned, he should call for a wellness check, not expect the rest of us to manage Amanda's emotional stability. Then came the biggest shock. Leah kicked him out. Leah called me to say she was considering not coming to the wedding at all. She was overwhelmed and heartbroken, and I told her I completely understood. We met up for coffee and she told me everything, how their final fight played out, how she forced him to read out his texts with Amanda out loud, and even showed the messages to a friend of hers. His response, "Leah, what the hell is this?" And honestly, same. So that's where things stand. My brother's out, Amanda's blocked, Leah's undecided, and I'm just here hoping this chaos doesn't ruin our wedding entirely. But if there's one thing I've learned, that's that boundaries matter, and just because someone's always been around, doesn't mean they deserve a permanent seat at the table, especially your table. Leah didn't just leave quietly. She made a decision, a firm, clear one that she'd probably been considering for a long time. The messages between my brother and Amanda were the final straw. To her, it wasn't just inappropriate flirting or weird boundaries anymore, it was emotional betrayal. Plain and simple. When she confronted my brother, she asked him the one question that cut through everything. Why should I stay when you always end up choosing Amanda? He swore that wasn't true. He begged her not to leave. But the moment Amanda called him crying, accusing me of bullying her, he rushed to her side. Right in the middle of their fight, Leah was still sitting there, hurt and in shock. Well, he walked off to comfort someone else. Later that night, Leah texted him. She told him he needed to move out. She said she didn't want to see him again unless he cut Amanda out of his life completely and started therapy to deal with his unhealthy patterns. It was her apartment, and she was done pretending things were okay. Over the next couple of days, Leah and I talked a lot. She said it felt surreal, watching it all fall apart like that, but also freeing. She said it helped to read through the comments on my Reddit post, to listen to other people's stories, and to realize that she wasn't crazy or overreacting, that she wasn't alone. She asked me to share a few thoughts for anyone else who might be stuck in a relationship like hers. She said the worst kind of loneliness isn't being alone. It's being with someone who makes you feel unseen, unchosen, and unworthy, and when you fall into the trap of thinking you can fix someone, you lose yourself along the way. You convince yourself that love means endurance, but it doesn't. Love means partnership. It means being safe and prioritized. Trying to work things out is admirable, but if you're the only one trying, it's not a relationship. It's a rescue mission. And honestly, she's right. From the outside, this whole thing probably sounds like a bad soap opera. But my daily life has actually been weirdly quiet. The real mess is with my brother. He's emotionally all over the place, still trying to act like Amanda isn't the core of every major problem in his life. And Amanda, I don't even have words for her at this point. She's not just immature, she's draining, manipulative, and I'm tired of pretending she's just misunderstood. Some people asked if our dad was still coming to the wedding. Yes, of course he is. He's trying to stay out of it, but he's not blind. He sees Amanda for who she is. He just doesn't want to stir things up any more than they already are. He's always been a quiet observer, but even he's reached a point where he's just done. And then came the call. We found out my brother had been in a car accident in another country. He and Amanda had taken a last-minute vacation to get their minds off everything, and no one thought to let us know. The nurse at the hospital was the one who called, said he'd been admitted in critical condition. Getting a plane ticket was a nightmare. So my dad and I packed a bag and started driving immediately. That whole drive, neither of us spoke. I think he was too stunned, or maybe too angry to say anything. He's never looked like that before, completely hollowed. It turns out, the accident wasn't even the real problem. My brother had developed a severe kidney infection that turned into sepsis. It started as a UTI, then worsened over days, and eventually left him barely conscious. Amanda told us he'd been complaining about feeling sick, but refused to go to the hospital. Instead, they went out drinking, and when they got home, he took some medication she didn't even know what it was and collapsed. Amanda didn't call for help. She just panicked. When he wouldn't wake up, she dragged him into the car herself, drove toward the hospital, and then crashed into a barrier near the entrance. His phone flew out of the car and shattered. That's why we couldn't reach him. Amanda ran inside to get help, but once the hospital staff realized she wasn't family, they wouldn't let her in. And instead of calling us immediately, she went back to their Airbnb. She didn't tell anyone what had happened. She said she needed time to process. Meanwhile, my brother was lying in a hospital bed in a foreign country, alone and unable to contact anyone. When Amanda finally showed up again, she acted like nothing had happened. She was rested, clean, dressed up like she'd just returned from a weekend spa trip. She told us she had needed a break to clear her head, that she was overwhelmed. But what about him? What about the fact that he almost died? That no one even knew where he was? To make matters worse, Amanda had posted a photo from her hotel room with a smug little caption, "Much needed reset. Sometimes you have to take care of yourself first." The timing was awful, completely tone deaf. We're now scrambling to handle his medical care, the bills, the logistics of getting him home. No insurance, of course, because they didn't think that far ahead. Amanda is worried about her own stress levels. My brother is worried about Amanda pulling away, and we're just trying to keep it all from falling apart. It's been chaos. We're keeping things civil for his sake. We can't risk making things worse. He's physically recovering, but emotionally, he's a wreck. He's scared. He doesn't know where he stands with Leah. He's ashamed of how this all unfolded. And I think, deep down, he knows he's burned every bridge except the one Amanda's still standing on. And even that one is cracking. As much as I want to scream at him, I can't, not now, because sometimes the people we care about the most end up hurting themselves the worst. And no matter how badly you want to protect them, you can't do it for them. You can only hope they eventually see what everyone else already has, and maybe, just maybe, choose better next time. If you haven't already, you might want to try clearly expressing what you've been feeling specifically and with examples. Comment 10 suggested something helpful. Let him know that you hoped for a partner who shared house duties equally, but instead, over time, it all slowly became your responsibility. Marriage should be a balance of compromises, yet you seem to be the only one constantly adjusting, sacrificing your comfort to keep him content, which understandably has led to resentment. Rather than actively taking charge of his emerging sensory sensitivities, he chose to ignore and sidestep them. And it's not his autism that's led to divorce, it's the fact that you always had to set your needs aside. At some point, you realized that trying to keep both of you happy meant neither of you truly was. One comment stood out. These challenges can be managed. I have ASD and struggle with intense sensory triggers, just like your husband, but I've still figured out how to run a home and live with independence. For instance, vacuums trigger meso, I sweep, or schedule my robot vacuum for when I'm not around. Same with laundry machines, I time them around my absence. I also wear concert-grade earplugs and noise-canceling headphones to navigate loud places. I wash dishes myself because I'm gentler and don't clatter them, which would otherwise give me a migraine. I wear gloves for unpleasant textures and maintain routines that allow for flexibility when things don't go as planned. And if you're hosting your friends, doesn't he have a quiet space to retreat to in his own home? That's essential for anyone dealing with sensory overload. Without that, it would feel like living in constant discomfort. So no, the issue isn't his ASDITs, how he chooses to handle it, and how he shifted the weight of it all onto you. Has he ever tried therapy or seen an occupational therapist to help navigate adult responsibilities? Therapy and medication changed everything for MIT, might do the same for him. Honestly, what's disappointing is thinking you're leaving because he's autistic, rather than because he refuses to work toward a solution or share the load. These are solvable issues. With a bit of effort, life could be better for him and for both of you. What's more upsetting is his unwillingness to contribute, emotionally or practically. That's not autism, it's entitlement. Just be clear, autism isn't something he can change, but the way he handles it, that's within his control, and he can absolutely step up and support you. So here's the update. It's been 3 days since I posted about planning to leave my husband because living with him made life feel impossible. Many of you were right, he was using his autism as an excuse to avoid housework. Yesterday, I sat down and told him that I had been deeply unhappy for a long time. I explained that I no longer love him and feel no attraction left. Still, I told him I cared and was willing to continue paying my half of the rent for 3 more months after I leave, just so he has time to adjust and find a place that fits his needs. His reaction: he first pleaded with me to reconsider. When I stood firm, he accused me of being ableist for leaving him over autism. When that didn't work, he finally confessed he'd simply grown too used to me doing everything, and now he was suddenly ready to try therapy. But I made it clear my decision was final. I've already accepted a new job and will be speaking with a divorce lawyer next week. Out of respect, I won't host guests during these final months, but he'll have to start handling his own responsibilities now. And for those wondering, no, he didn't financially support me. University is free here, and I'm paid during my PhD. I've always been financially independent. I'm excited for what's ahead. I look forward to welcoming friends into my home again without restrictions or guilt. Thanks to everyone who offered support and kind advice during this tough time. In the comments, someone shared that both they and their autistic partner have chronic conditions. They both push themselves daily to share the workload. That's how real partnerships work. Another person was shocked by my generosity. They said I shouldn't even be paying rent. Just leave and let a lawyer handle it. Someone else called me a good person for putting up with so much and still choosing compassion. Honestly, I think they're right. You only get one shot at happiness, and I was slowly losing mine. Another commenter said it plainly: you deserve to be seen, appreciated, and supported. Maybe now he'll realize that hiding behind autism won't work anymore, because I won't be there to carry the burden. And someone else said what many were probably thinking: he's not physically incapable, he just used autism as a shield, which is incredibly unfair to those who genuinely try. I've heard from people with ADHD, autism, bipolar disorder, all saying the same thing. Your conditions are not excuses to mistreat or neglect your partner. If anything, they demand more awareness, not less responsibility. In the end, I'm proud I made this decision. I've chosen peace, self-worth, and a future where I'm no longer shrinking myself for someone who refused to grow. A big thank you to everyone who showed concern for my well-being, and an even bigger one to those who spared a thought for the state of my hair. Your suggestion about using products designed for people of color, honestly, I'd never even considered it. Looking back, I realize it must have been sheer neglect when it came to really paying attention to my hair's health. Now that I reflect on it, I'm walking away from this situation not only with new insights on friendships and worldviews, but also hair care tips. Right now though, I just feel exhausted, like I need to vanish under a blanket and not move for 3 days straight. Still, this is just a bump in the road and I do plan to push through it. I doubt I'll post another update. Mostly because I didn't use my main account. I didn't want it connected to this post for ... obvious reasons. I'll try to respond to some comments, but mostly, I just want to say, thank you. Whether your advice came in a few sentences or long thoughtful paragraphs, it mattered. One comment that stuck with me came from someone who said, I'm black, and went to a mostly white all-girls school. There was a white girl with very thick, tightly curled hair that no one including her family knew how to care for. I ran into her years later at a black hair salon, and she said she'd been going there since college. That hit me. Another person shared their own hair journey. The second I started seeing a black stylist, everything changed. My uneven haircuts made sense. Wetting, straightening, and cutting curly hair just doesn't work. They even helped me realize you don't need to wait for wash days to have good curls. Others were just blown away. Learning the same. The guy with naturally curly long hair, who realized his stylist had been cutting it wrong all along. Another person was floored by how many white people have curly or wavy hair but don't know how to manage it despite it being more common than people think. Practical advice came rolling in. One person shared how just using an oil moisturizer made a massive difference in her friend's hair. He had no clue it could look that good with so little effort. Ethnic hair products, game changer. Several people also talked about how painful bad haircuts can be, especially when you've finally grown curls you love. One even said it would be devastating if the wrong stylist ruined theirs. I feel that so deeply now. But beyond the hair stuff, a lot of people reminded me, you don't need to change your natural self for anyone. The logic of straightening my hair to not offend people, it just doesn't hold up. In fact, it goes against what the natural hair movement stands for, being yourself unapologetically. A few pointed out how ridiculous it was to ask someone to alter their natural hair texture. While discussing cultural appropriation, isn't forcing someone to hide their natural features the exact thing we should be fighting against? Some spoke about ignorance, not malice, driving these opinions. It's true, when you're young, everything seems black and white. With time, you learn to see the gray in between. And yeah, maybe that's what's going on here too. I've seen others who, like me, have tight curls naturally. One said, so you're allowed to wear your hair as it grows. But I'm not. That one hit especially hard. Another said she went to school with white-skinned classmates who had 4C hair and didn't know how to care for it, and felt ashamed for having it. One person wrote that her hair was ugly her whole life until she went to a black stylist. She's pale, as she put it, whiter than radioactive mayonnaise, but her hair wasn't white hair in texture. That stylist changed her life and her confidence. Another talked about how their curls came in with age and how their black stylist helped them embrace their new texture. The transformation was both physical and emotional. All this to say, no, I'm not the problem here. And if anything, I'm walking away with more self-awareness, stronger boundaries, and honestly, better hair. It all began when I started to feel noticeably uneasy as I realized several colleagues had shifted their attention toward us. In an attempt to ease the situation discreetly, I gently moved her arms from my shoulders and casually remarked that she was my work sister, which, I added, was why I found so much joy in teasing her. That lighthearted line, however, did not land well. Mary's demeanor changed immediately. She returned to her workstation, visibly shaken, and spent the rest of the day quietly sobbing at her desk. When I approached to apologize, she expressed that she had been deeply embarrassed. She explained that the term work husband had been used by her in a completely platonic manner, and my response referring to her as a sister had inadvertently made her appear inappropriate in front of everyone. Mary was particularly upset by the fact that I had removed her arms while she hugged me. I tried to clarify my position. I mentioned that I had observed several individuals in the room exchanging judgmental glances the moment she called me her work husband, and my intention had only been to ensure that the statement wasn't misinterpreted. Managed to talk things through for a few minutes, and by the end, Mary appeared to calm down. She gave me another brief hug and then left for the day. Still, I couldn't shake the guilt I felt afterward. I understood her perspective, how my reaction could made her feel as though she had crossed a boundary she never intended to undo in doing so. I may have unintentionally implied something inappropriate, but at the same time, I had to acknowledge that I had genuinely felt discomfort in the moment and didn't want our colleagues to make assumptions or spread unfounded rumors about our relationship. As I sat alone at my desk processing everything, I began to wonder whether I had truly humiliated her in front of the team or simply attempted to protect professional boundaries in a moment that called for it. Several colleagues, however, saw the incident from a different angle. One commented that calling her my work sister was, in fact, the more appropriate term, especially considering how often such work-spouse dynamics evolve into something problematic. Another stated that Mary's reaction may have revealed deeper feelings, and suggested that I should perhaps consider ceasing joint travel with her in future assignments. Other voices were more assertive. They pointed out that the very notion of work husband has become increasingly inappropriate in workplace contexts, particularly when used publicly, and emphasized that my duty of loyalty lay with my actual spouse. The fact that Mary appeared to be prioritizing her own discomfort without acknowledging the emotional impact of her actions on me was another concern echoed by several commenters. They noted that removing someone's hands after an extended hug, especially when done publicly and in a professional setting, is entirely within one's rights, particularly when personal boundaries are crossed. Moreover, the fact that Mary only viewed the incident through the lens of her embarrassment, rather than considering how she had made me feel, was a troubling sign. As one person put it, she came off as someone emotionally attached to a married man after drinking a little too much. Many expressed that work sister was not just a safer term, it was also a compliment in itself. The label work husband, on the other hand, carries implications that could easily raise red flags. In a corporate environment, several suggested I proactively distance myself from Mary, avoid further joint assignments, and inform my wife before someone else did. In the days that followed, the tension between Mary and me became increasingly apparent. The morning after the incident, she refused to speak to me altogether. I considered apologizing again, but the overwhelming consensus from others led me to believe I had done nothing wrong. In fact, it was I who had reason to feel slighted. By mid-afternoon, she came into my office, closed the door, and began accusing me of being cold and distant. I asked her to sit down so we could talk. She stated that she felt ridiculed and that everyone had been staring at her because of what I'd said. I reiterated that I didn't appreciate being labeled her work husband and that the prolonged hug, especially in front of colleagues, had made me extremely uncomfortable. She dismissed my concerns, insisting that I had overreacted to what she viewed as a harmless, widely accepted joke. According to her, calling someone your work husband was simply a way to acknowledge how closely we worked together, claiming it reflected the depth of our professional connection, given how much time we spent on business trips and in planning sessions. At that point, I had to interrupt her. I told her that, as a married man, I found the term deeply disrespectful to my relationship. I explained that it didn't matter how well she believed she knew me, or how many dinners we'd shared while traveling. There was a clear boundary, and she had crossed it. To my surprise, she escalated the claim further. She asserted that, because we had shared so many experiences together, she knew me even better than my wife did. She described my casual gym attire during work trip shorts that she bizarrely referred to as underwear, and our long car rides and planning breakfasts as evidence of emotional intimacy. She claimed I embodied the very definition of a work husband, and insisted that I was simply in denial. At that point, I had to push back. I told her plainly that I treated her like a friend and colleague, and if she interpreted those shared professional moments as something deeper, then she had misread the situation entirely. I told her I never wanted to hear that term again. It disrespected not only my marriage but also the professional standards we're expected to maintain at work. Eventually, she apologized and admitted she hadn't meant to insult my wife or overstep. She pleaded with me to move on and not let this affect our working relationship. She went in for another hug, but I declined and simply told her everything was fine, though I knew I needed to be more careful from that moment forward. Later, that evening, I shared the entire incident with my wife. Unsurprisingly, she was upset, especially with Mary's use of the term work husband. She asked if I thought Mary had a romantic interest in me. I told her I had never interpreted it that way, and that Mary had likely been slightly inebriated and defensive afterward. Still, my wife made it clear she now felt wary of Mary and advised me to create more space while traveling with her. If anything similar happened again, she urged me to report it formally. I promised her I would, taking her advice and the feedback from others seriously. I scheduled a meeting with my manager and HR. I didn't intend to file a complaint, but I did want the incident documented in case the situation escalated. I have no travel plans this week due to the holidays, but next Tuesday I'm scheduled to travel with Mary again. I'm hoping to explore alternatives or at least establish some boundaries in advance. In the end, I've come to realize that maintaining professional integrity, even when it feels uncomfortable in the moment, is non-negotiable. What began as a misunderstood interaction has evolved into something that, if not carefully handled, could have serious ramifications. So, for now, distance seems like the most responsible course of action, for both our sakes.